The next equation that I'm going to balance is the copper nitrate. So let's CuNO3 2. And I'm going to mix that with the sodium iodide as my two reactants. The first thing you have to do is figure out what products they're going to make. The copper as an ion in this case was a +2, and I know that because it took two of the nitrate ions, which are -1 each, to cancel the one copper +2 ion. Sodium is a +1 ion, the first column on the periodic table, and those are all a +1 ion. And then iodide came as a -1 ion, and I know that for two reasons. One, because it only took one iodine to match up with the one sodium, so they would cancel to be neutral, because all compounds must be neutral. And I also know that because it's a halogen, and it's right next to the noble gases column, and all of the halogens are a -1 charge. So, when you're deciding on the products, they have to, crazy Christy talk, switch partners at the dance. So for right now, this copper went to the dance with nitrate, and sodium went to the dance with iodine. The two positives cannot go home together. The two negatives cannot go home together. So we have copper, which is the +2, already came to the dance with nitrate, can't go home with sodium because it's a positive and the two positives can't go home together, so it has to go home with the iodine. Positives are always written first. This one was positive, this one was negative. So the sodium was the other positive one, so that has to get written first, and it's going to go home with the nitrate ion because it's, for one, the only thing left. For two, it can only go home with the negatives, and it went to the dance with the negative iodine, so it's going to go home with the negative nitrate. They swapped partners at the dance. Crazy Christy talk. So now we have, check our ion charges here. We had the copper, which is a +2 charge as an ion, and the iodine, which we already figured out, is a -1 charge. Those do not evenly cancel. So I need a second iodine so that I would be able to cancel the +2s with the -1s, but that means I needed two of those iodines, and I should have written that in red, so I'm going to fix that. Now let's take a look at the sodium and the nitrate, see if we have those lined up correctly. Sodium is a +1, and nitrate is a -1. So those do evenly cancel, and I don't need any more of either one. That's what you have to do just to figure out the products. Now we're going to balance that equation. I'm going to rewrite it down here just so we have more room. There's copper nitrate. That didn't work out very well. There we go. Plus sodium iodide are my two reactants. Then we have copper iodide. It's actually copper 2 iodide. Bromine will do. Plus sodium nitrate. So, first thing I'm going to do is separate the reactant side from the product side. And make a list of the chemicals that I have in the equation. I have copper, I have nitrogen, I have oxygen, I have sodium, and I have iodine. Making the same exact list so that I can easily match up to make sure my lists are the same. Because once they're the same, then they're balanced. Count how many I have on each side. I have 1 copper on the reactant side, and is driving me nuts. I have 2 nitrogens. I have 6 oxygens. This is all on the reactant side. I have 1 sodium, and I have 1 iodine. Look at just the product side. I have 1 copper. I have 1 nitrogen. I have 3 oxygens, 1 sodium, and 2 iodines. So you can see my lists are not the same. The only place where I can put coefficients are in front of each chemical chunk. Draw in those little spots so I remember where I can change numbers now. And you should always do the metals first. We have copper as a metal and sodium as a metal, so we'll make sure those are balanced, and they are. Now let's take a look at diatomics, which those are, the rest of those are diatomics. So let's see, whichever ones we want to do. Let's do iodine first, shall we? I need another iodine on the reactant side, because if I put a 2 coefficient here, that's going to change this to 2, which will then match the product side. But that 2 coefficient also changes how much sodium I have. So I need to put in a 2 here to know that I also have 2 sodium now. Now that's going to help us because on the other side, on the product side, if I put a 2 coefficient in front of sodium to fix that, then I'm also going to affect, by putting that 2 coefficient in there, how much nitrogen and oxygen I have, which is what's also screwed up on my list here. So now I have 2 nitrogen and I have 6 oxygen because of this coefficient too. So that now makes my list match up and the equation is balanced. So on the test, a question would be like, what is the coefficient in front of copper nitrate? So you find the copper nitrate and there's not a coefficient there. So the answer would be 1. Remember, if 0 is there, then it's not even in the equation, like there's 0 zinc here. What's the coefficient in front of sodium iodide? And the answer would be 2 because of this coefficient. And the coefficient in front of copper to iodide would be 1 because there's not a number here. So the coefficient's 1. And what's the coefficient in front of sodium nitrate? And the answer is 2 because of this 2 coefficient. And that balances that equation from your lab.